Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. Well, it's certainly crazy in Spain at the moment. For those of you who know my channel, you know that I'm based in Spain, sunny Spain, Viva España. So it's pouring down with rain today. Again, second day in a row. So yesterday we had rain, we had storms. Can you hear the thunder? Anyway, then we had a few hours of sunshine in the afternoon. It's beautiful. I was sat out in the sun. I was thinking, oh, that's great. Tomorrow, it's Saturday. I don't have classes because anyone who knows me will know I'm a Spanish teacher as well. And I've started upcycling garden furniture on my sunroof, ready for the summer when it ever arrives. Anyway, I got more painting to do just to finish off and that, and I was quite looking forward to it because it's already looking nice, and it's looked tatty because you know the sun destroys everything. So the last time, to be fair, that I did it was quite a few years ago. So it was tired. It needed refreshing. So I was quite looking forward to doing it today. I thought, oh, I've got all day to do it till don't have to take my son to work till later. 6 o'clock this morning, the heavens opened. It's thundering, it's lightning. There's drips everywhere in my house. Oh, you have to bring all your washing in, don't you? Make sure everything's inside. Anyway, so yeah, and it's rained more or less constantly. Thundered, lightninged, rained constantly since 6 a.m. this morning. Here in Spain, it is now nearly 11 and it's still raining. So, so that was the end of the painting. So I thought, do you know what I'll do? I'll go on and have a chat with my chatters. And actually, there was something that I wanted to tell you about. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. And it's to do with Gus Lamont, this little boy. One of the cases we're following, this little boy, 4 years old only, went missing in Junta in Australia, where he lived on like a big sort of sheep station, like right out in the wilderness. Just disappeared. Poof, one of those, like Nancy Guthrie, Sebastian Rogers, Summer Wells, all these, Jack and Lily Sullivan, all these children and adults just disappear into a puff of smoke. Now that the Americans have released the UFO files, maybe there'll be an explanation in there, hey? So, anyway, that's what we're going to talk about the latest developments in this case with the prime suspect. And believe it or not, if you're following this case, you'll already know. But if you weren't following this case, guess who is the prime suspect? One of his own grandmas is the suspect. I mean, it's quite unusual, that, isn't it, for a grandma to be the suspect in the disappearance of a child. So that's what we're going to talk about because she has been charged, but not with the disappearance of Gus. There doesn't seem to be enough evidence for that. She's been charged on separate weapons charges. And anyway, we're going to discuss that. So, first of all, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for liking. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Please subscribe. Please leave your DNA on the subscribe button and on the like button and on the notifications bell. These are all completely free ways you can help my channel if you enjoy watching my channel. Also, leave a comment of some kind, that helps the algorithm. And then I want to especially thank those of you who sent me a Ko-fi or who are joined and become members. There's special members emojis you can use. And we do members streams on a regular basis. Next one will be this Thursday, I think. So I'm doing them fortnightly at the moment. So yeah, this next coming week, next Thursday, we'll be having a members live, exclusive members live as well. Thank you to those of you who send me emails, leave nice comments. I do get some lovely comments, so thank you so much because that all makes me feel better. It puts me in a good mood. Also, it makes me want to carry on with the channel when sometimes it gets difficult, when I'm covering difficult cases that are upsetting. Cases of little children like this are always upsetting, especially upsetting, aren't they? But I think what sets this one apart as well is the lies that were told when Gus first went missing. But also, it's hard to accept that a grandma would do something like this. Now, she's not been charged with it yet. She's not, but the police have announced that they're treating it as a major crime. They don't believe the story that was told when Gus first went missing. They believe there's, lie after lie, deception. The police have come out and said this. That's quite unusual. But Gus himself has not been found, of course, yet. So it's a difficult one. Okay, so I'm going to take my banner off and I'm going to just give a little bit of I'm going to say hello to my lurkers and, of course, to anyone who's in the chat and to the replay crew. I just want to take this banner off. Yeah, so you may hear some thunder and lightning as I'm talking. So hello, you lovely lurkers. Thank you for watching. Hello, replay crew. Thank you for watching. Yeah, I don't know let me know what the weather's like where you are, because I know you're all over the world. So some of you it'd probably be really nice weather. Some of you it'd be grim weather, depending which part of this crazy world you're living in. But you would expect in Spain in May that you'd be talking about lovely weather. I do, my heart goes out to people who've come out on holiday. So there'll be a lot of people who are maybe out on holiday this week, saved up their pennies, to come to Spain to try and get a week in the sun because maybe they're from, a country where the weather's depressing all the time. And they come out to Spain expecting, some nice weather. And, oh gosh, and I was in the supermarket yesterday. Sorry, just a bit of waffle for those of you who watch regularly. I like a little waffle here and there. And there's a waffle emoji on the members emoji up. If you remember, please put the waffle emoji up. So I was in the supermarket yesterday morning. So bear in mind it's freezing cold. Well, I say freezing cold. And it says it's 17 degrees. It doesn't feel like that. It feels about 10 degrees. And I had on, joggers and trainers and a big thick jacket. And I'm going to go because it's freezing. And there was a couple in front of me at the checkout. Oh my God. I think they were Scandinavian. When I heard them talking, I think they're Scandinavian. The girl had the tiniest little summer dress on that you've ever seen, flip-flops. The boy had, or the man, I mean, they were in their, I'd say they were in their late 20s, early 30s. The guy had on shorts, flip-flops, or sliders, as they call them now, which are different from flip-flops, I suppose, and a little T-shirt. And I say a little T-shirt because it wasn't covering up his, when men don't wear shorts that fit them and their bum crack is showing, it's not a nice look, is it? Anyway, he was a young lad and wasn't overweight or anything, but just thought, God, just get a size bigger. Anyway, that's what they were wearing. And you can just always tell that somebody's on holiday. Now, either that's the only clothes they brought with them because they were expecting it to be sunny, or maybe they weren't feeling the cold because they come from a colder country. I don't know. So, yeah, tiny little sundress and flip-flops, and then shorts, T-shirt and sliders for the guy. Crazy. Anyway, maybe they're just determined to wear their summer clothes. But, I mean, it's not only that it's cloudy, it was raining, storming like it is now. So lightning, everything. So definitely, they're going to end up getting pneumonia before they go home, I think. Anyway, hey Tracy. Yes, I'm much better, thank you. But you know, it's the weather keeps changing. That's why I was ill. I think that's why everyone's getting ill. Lest we've all got this hantavirus. Oh God, isn't that getting on your nerves? You know, they're making a big deal about this hantavirus. It's like they're trying to frighten people, isn't it? Because hantavirus has been around forever, apparently. Nobody had ever heard of it before last year when it's thought that Gene Hackman's wife, Betsy, died of it, wasn't it? And that's what led to that tragedy. That's the official story. Nobody had ever heard of it before, so it's a virus that's passed on by rodents. Now suddenly it's like the biggest threat to mankind, but it's been around forever, and it's so rare. You know, cases are so rare. Anyway, they're making a big deal of it, and before you know it, we'll all be in lockdown probably. But I just thought, oh, for God's sake, it's so transparent. It's like a scaremongering tactic, isn't it? It's almost like to subdue people, you know, frighten them. There's always something. It was the monkeypox virus, and then it was, what was the other one? Ebola. I know they're real viruses, but they make out, you know, like we're all going to catch it, you know, because there's been one case in Europe or whatever, all the millions of people in Europe. And then Bob Geldof gets trotted out, doesn't he? So, you know, Bob Geldof will be trotted out soon. You know, he always appears, doesn't it? But it's very irritating. I'm getting really sick of the mainstream media. You know, once you start seeing these things, you can't unsee it, can you? That how it's just to frighten you. You know, and if people probably do occasionally get hantavirus. It's a virus, but is it really going to take over the world? Anyway, we'll see. So let's get back to what I'm here to talk about, which is this adorable little boy. So I'm just going to give you a refresher of what happened. Gosh, I'm trying to think when it actually was. Was it last September, I think? Last September 2025, when this lovely little boy, Gus, 4 years old, his lovely curly hair, was apparently, this is what the GMAs say. So Gus lived on this sheep station in the middle of nowhere in Yunta in Australia, and he lived there with his two GMAs. Got a picture of them somewhere. These are his two GMAs, Josie and Shannon. So Josie is the lady on the left, and Josie is transitioned. Josie, about 10 years ago, decided she was a woman, even though she was in her 60s. And I mean, I'm sure she's perhaps always felt like she should have been a woman, but, you know, probably comes from an era where it wasn't acceptable. And, you know, in that outback, in that apparently she or he, as she was before, you know, was a real good old Australian boy, you know, one of those sort of hunter, sort of, how can I explain it? You know, about as macho as they get. But anyway, apparently was always living with this desire to have been a woman. And about 10, 11, 12 years ago or whatever, transitioned to be a woman. Not the most feminine woman you would ever see. I mean, she's got the muscles on this person, my God. So it's difficult, isn't it? Because you know, I don't know if she's physically transitioned. You know, I don't know what sort of surgery's been involved, if any. You know, I have no idea. But that must have been difficult for Shannon, because Shannon, who's the lady on the right, that's the other GMA. She always reminds me of Mrs. Pepperpot from from the children's books from years ago. Maybe a lot of you don't know about Mrs. Pepper Pot, but I used to read them when I was a kid. And it was supposed, now, it's a bit like unclear who was actually looking after Gus when he disappeared. Because originally it was said that, it's been said that Shannon was looking after him. It's been said that Josie was looking after him. I don't think the full story is clear as to who was actually looking after him. Now, Gus lives on this homestead which belongs to the two Gmars, and he lives there or lived there. The police have said they think he is deceased. The police have said that as far as they're concerned, this boy sadly is deceased. This is his mum and dad. Now, they were supposedly, they supposedly have split up, and therefore the mum had gone back to live with the two Gmars. Now, when Josie transitioned, that must have been difficult, not only for her partner, Shannon, her wife, but it must have been difficult for the daughter as well. And now I feel awful because the daughter's name slipped my mind. Begins with J. He's called Josh. And her name begins with J, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, so apparently they split up. Josh doesn't get on with Josie at all. Josh and Jess, yeah. They had split up, apparently. They've also got another child. I think he's called Alfie, but I'm not certain of his name. But he also lived at the homestead. So she had moved to the homestead, still on good terms, I believe, her and Josh. Still on good terms. I don't know why they split up. He apparently doesn't get on with Josie. Josie's a very strong character, that's for sure. So that's the Tranmar. Sometimes maybe that's a cruel thing to say, I don't know, but I haven't got much respect for her. Sorry, because at the end of the day, she's prime suspect in the death of her grandson. So I found it difficult to find much respect for her. So apologies if anybody finds that offensive, but she's not a very nice person in my opinion. So they were all living together on this sheep station homestead, massive place right out in the middle of nowhere in Yunta in Australia near Adelaide. And apparently, so this is the last story we had. Shannon, the other grandma, the Mrs. Pepperpot grandma, was looking after Gus and Alfie, the baby. And while, for some reason the others weren't there. And she said that Gus was playing on a pile of sand outside the house 1 minute. Round about 6 o'clock in the evening, he was playing on this pile of sand, and she was inside with the baby, and then she went out half an hour later. That's a long time to leave a 4-year-old, in my opinion. 4-year-olds can get into, they're mischievous, aren't they? They get into everything. You wouldn't leave a 4-year-old unattended for 5 minutes, I don't think. Never mind half an hour. I mean, they're, because that's that dangerous age, isn't it? Because they can move. It's not like they're not going to move. I mean, they can move. They get into scrapes, fall off things. They're inquisitive. Anyway, this is what she said. So she said she left him there for half an hour. And when she went back to call him in for tea, he'd gone, disappeared, poof, into a puff of smoke, beamed up by Starship Enterprise. As I say, might turn up in the UFO files from America. Just anyway, it's set off. Originally, it was thought that he had just wandered off. And because it's such a massive property and the grounds around it, the land around it is huge, very difficult terrain. So search parties were sent out, and there's been a lot of searching done for Gus, and nothing has been found. None of his clothes. There was one boot print found. We've heard that before, haven't we? You know, in the Jack and Lily Sullivan case. These are planted, I think. And I think this one was planted. It's just to confuse people. Anyway, one boot print was found. That's it. So they haven't found his hat. He was wearing like a floppy hat. He was, you know, the clothes he had on, I think he had on a Minions t-shirt and shorts. Nothing's been found. Nothing. Nada. Zilch. So this went on and on and on, and must have been so difficult for everyone, I suppose. But it turns out it's not so difficult for the GMAs as it was for the parents. And then a couple of months ago, the police came right out and said, look, this is a major crime. We're declaring it a major crime. We don't believe that Gus wandered off. We believe that Gus is deceased. Now, they haven't said really why they think this. Well, they have. But I think the problem is they're missing that sort of smoking gun, if you like, the bit of evidence that they need. So it's quite a lot for the police, especially the Australian police. They're very secretive normally. To come out and say that openly. And what they said was they felt that this was a major crime. There's no evidence to suggest that Gus wandered off. They think something's happened to him, that he's probably dead. And they have a suspect who is not the parents. That's exactly how they put it. We have a suspect, a prime suspect, but it's not the parents. So the only people left, you know, at the end of the day, how to sort of say someone's a suspect without saying it. If they're saying it's not the parents have got nothing to do with it. The only other two people that were there at that homestead is Josie and Shannon. So it's one of them that's a suspect. Anyway, it's come out since then. They're saying both of them are suspects. And the reason that they're saying that is that their stories were deceptive, that the versions that they gave about how Gus had disappeared were contradictory, you know, in the end. So they've obviously interviewed them many times. They found inconsistencies in what they're saying. Now, they have been to the homestead many, many times, you know, at least 3 or 4 times to search, and they have not found anything. They have not found anything. So I must say that, you know, everybody's innocent till proven guilty. These ladies, they haven't actually even been charged with the disappearance or murder of Gus. So, you know, we have to remember that. But the police have been very, you know, transparent in saying that they believe Gus is dead. They have suspects, but it's not the parents. So it's obviously the GMAs. Anyway, then another thing that happened was a Daily Mail reporter went around to the house, which must be irritating, turned up at the property. The Tranmar, Josie, she came out with a gun and was brandishing it at the reporter and telling her to, in no uncertain terms, go away, go away. And it was a very intimidating, she's a very intimidating person, very muscular, very, you know, and she's in the 70s now, early 70s, but very imposing figure. You know, you would be terrified. Well, I certainly would be terrified of that person. And then, of course, when you look at Shannon, she's such a, you know, tiny little person, isn't she? She's like the opposite. She's been through a lot, really, when you think about it, with this man. She's been married to him. She's had a child with him. Then he turned around and said he wanted to be a woman. But they're still living together. So I don't know if it's still a romantic partnership or if they just decided to carry on living together because it was, easier, or, you know, less expensive, or, as far as I know, they're not getting a divorce or anything like that. So it will have been difficult for Shanann, but she's accepted it, seems. She's still living with this man, this woman, I should say. And it will have been difficult for Jess as well, the daughter. That's their only daughter. She's had to, I mean, you can just imagine it yourself, can't you, really? If your dad, and, at the age of 60 or whatever, turned around and said, well, actually, I'm going to become a woman, it would be difficult to deal with, whatever. It would be difficult to deal with. You just can't dispute it, really. Hi, Daniel. Yep, happy Saturday. So that's where we were. So Gus had disappeared. This Daily Mail reporter turned up at the house and was, frightened away with a shotgun. So she's a very aggressive woman. So we could see the intimidation. I think, she didn't do herself any favours by doing that, because at the end of the day, people are just wondering what's happened to Gus. We've talked about this, about other missing people. There's families out there that would love some attention on their missing persons case, their family member who's disappeared, and nobody's even talking about it on the media. And then you get like a case like Gus's, and people are trying to help, want to help, and she's threatening them with a shotgun. So I think that always, that put her in an even worse light, didn't it? Then after that, of course, this announcement was made that she, in fact, or the two GMOs were the prime suspects in this case, and that, there'd been lies told. Her and Shanann, the other GMO, they lawyered up with separate lawyers, and they put out a statement saying they were devastated at these accusations and blah, de, blah, de, blah, de, blah. In the meantime, of course, Jess has moved away from that homestead now. I don't know where Jess is. It must be terrible for her. She's still, she hasn't had her other child taken away from her, because she's not a suspect in any way, shape, or form. I don't know where she's living. Apparently, she's moved into the city. But yeah, she couldn't stay there, could she? I don't even know if they're still there, actually, on the homestead, actually on the sheep station. Don't know where they are, really. Anyway, so what happened then? Oh, so just as everyone's still reeling from the fact that the police have said, that they've got suspects and they believe it's a crime, Josie got arrested. But she was nothing to do with the disappearance of little Gus. She was arrested on weapons charges. So she was arrested for having an illegal silencer. So apparently, in one of the searches of the property, the police found a silencer, which is illegal to have in Australia, and it fitted on to one of her guns. It makes you go cold to think of that, don't you? Doesn't it, really? I mean, if she did kill Gus, there's a few sort of, it's like, well, did she deliberately kill him? Was it an accident and they covered it up? Did she lose her temper? She's obviously got a temper. Did she lose her temper? He's a 4-year-old boy. 4-year-old boys, they can be irritating, can't they? He's probably got into mischief, maybe. Or maybe did he pick up a gun that was lying around and hurt himself that way? Not deliberately, but thinking he was playing cowboys and Indians. There's so many different scenarios that might have happened here. And, you can only hope that if she is responsible for Gus's death, that it was not deliberate. But you never know. You just never know. People have talked about him being, is it a financial thing? It's always money or love, isn't it, really? or custody. Why would she kill her own grandson deliberately? You can't wrap your head around that. But we've learned through looking at true crime cases, just because you can't wrap your head around it and I can't wrap my head around it, doesn't mean to say it hasn't happened. It's unusual, I think, for a grandma to kill their grandchild. That's probably one of the more unusual statistics, I would think. But it's not unheard of. It's not unheard of, sadly. So it's possible that she killed him on purpose, or it could have been an accident, and she didn't want to go to prison or whatever. I just don't know. But surely, if it had, hi David, hi, happy Saturday. If she had, surely, if there'd been an accident, surely they would have rang, for an ambulance or a helicopter. I presume maybe they use in those very sort of isolated places, and maybe could have been saved. It's anyway, we don't know. We don't know what actually happened on that day. I didn't miss longer than that. He was due to start school, so it was coming to a point where they probably couldn't cover it up anymore. But then, when did the mum last see him? So there's a lot we don't know. So, and a lot of it we won't get to find out, because I presume the police are hoping that they will be able to prosecute sooner or later in this case. So so she was arrested for this silencer, this illegal silencer that you're not allowed, they're banned in Australia. And it gave the police an excuse to arrest her and charge her with something. And since then, they've been back to the property again. They've searched after there was a lot of rain, and they searched after the rains, hoping that might have dislodged something. Didn't find anything. I haven't found anything. There's no trace been found of this boy, not his clothes, nothing. So, whether Josie will ever be held accountable for whatever happened to Gus, I don't know. But she's going to be held accountable for these weapons charges. So the reason I'm coming on, really, the reason it's prompted this video, but I'm glad I'm talking about it again, because these cases that take a long time, I don't know if Gus's case will ever be solved, because they've got to find his body first, haven't they? And he's such a tiny little thing, he wouldn't be difficult to hide. It's just heartbreaking, isn't it, to think that they may never find him, may never be solved. Let's have another look at bigger, it's just not fair, is it? It's not fair. 4 years old, probably, he may have even turned a 5th birthday, I don't know, but he will be soon, I would imagine. Just heartbreaking. Anyway, so the news is, so she was due to appear in court this week, just past, on these charges. Now, although, you might not think it, but they're actually, there is a possibility of up to 15 years in prison if she's found guilty of this charge. So, well, we'll see in a minute the article that I'm going to show you, the news article. It's either a fine of 75,000 Australian dollars or a prison sentence of up to 15 years. I mean, that's a big sentence, isn't it, for possession of a silencer? I mean, obviously it's against the law, but 15 years, some people don't even get that for murder, do they? So anyway, I hope she does get it. I hope she is found guilty, and I hope she gets prison in that way, But she may just get this fine, and I don't know what her financial circumstances are, but I believe that Shanann is quite reasonably well off, or they are quite reasonably well off. I don't know. I don't know their financial circumstances. But you think, $75,000 is a lot of money. Of course it is. But it's not beyond the realms of possibility to find, is it? If you, I don't know what you're going to do, a GoFundMe. Oh God, that'll be the next thing. There'll be a GoFundMe to pay my fine, so I don't have to go to prison for 15 years. Anyway, what I'm trying to say, it's not like $1 million, is it? It's a massive amount of money, but probably the courts would arrange for someone to pay it bit by bit, wouldn't they, if they couldn't pay it? I mean, ideally, to me, if she's found guilty, if she's found guilty of these weapons charges, and she should, hopefully she'll get the 15 years in prison sentence. But maybe the police are just trying indirectly to get her, maybe. Anyway, so she's changed the venue. So she was supposed to appear last week, in a court, nearby where they live. And she's not now. She decided right at the last minute, the venue was changed to Adelaide, to the actual city. So wonder what's behind that. Probably because she feels people won't have heard of it so much there. She'll get a more cosmopolitan jury, will she? If it is a jury and not just a judge, is she thinking that people might judge her for her transition? Whereas in Adelaide, which presumably is more, cosmopolitan, more, I don't know, people maybe more accepting of people who are different. Is she thinking she'd get a fairer trial there? But I don't know. But anyway, that's what's happened. So let's have a look at this news article. I've put some windows down. I've got quite a lot of windows open from when I was. It's a Facebook one. Okay. So let me share it, and then of course hope that you can hear it. You never know whether it's going to come out or not. Make sure it's sharing. Yeah, so of course it's a big case in Australia. I mean, we've talked about it from the beginning, but I don't know that it's an international case. So I have seen it on the BBC website talked about, so maybe.
A grandparent of missing boy Gus Lamont has had an 11th hour change to a court appearance scheduled for tomorrow. Hannah Ford joins us live from the Adelaide Magistrates Court. And Hannah, Josie Murray will now appear in Adelaide.
That's right, Rosanna. She was due to face court in Peterborough tomorrow morning on a firearms offence, but that hearing has been pushed back until back in February and charged with one count of possession of a sound moderator that fits on one of her guns, a charge not related to the investigation into the disappearance of 4-year-old Gus Lamont.
That's a big sentence. I know it's the maximum sentence, so, people don't always get the maximum sentence. I suppose there'd have to be aggravating factors. I don't know, but it's a big sentence, isn't it? I suppose because it's to do with firearms. I don't know. Anyway, here is little Gus. Look at him. Bless his little heart. This video, when it first came out, his mum released this video, and I just found it so haunting. There he is on his little bike. That you can see how, isolated and exposed the area is. There he is in his little bike. He's thought to have been wearing that hat when he supposedly wandered off. just want to go back a bit. So I want to have a little look at Josie again.
Penalty is a length.
You see, she's not the most feminine woman that you've ever seen. I mean, to me, I'm sorry, and I don't mean to upset anyone, but that just looks like a man, like, in drag or whatever, because, it doesn't look like a woman to me. I just, it's very strange. Sometimes, when you see people who transition, quite often you can see that person, they are a woman, really, and they've obviously just very sadly, gender dysmorphia is a genuine thing. But sometimes you sit and I think, oh, I just don't believe that. I think sometimes people do take advantage of it. I'm sorry, but I do. I don't think everyone is a genuine trans person. And unfortunately, that's what I think of this one. And, very masculine. Where's the femininity there? Of course, some women aren't very feminine, so I suppose maybe I should have.
Lengthy stint behind bars. If found guilty, she'll cop a $75,000 fine or 15 years in jail. It's now been more than 7 months since her 4-year-old grandson vanished without a trace from the family homestead near Yunta. Police have declared the disappearance a major crime and say they have a main suspect, not his parents. Both of the grandparents have stopped speaking with detectives recently.
Yeah, so that's the other thing. So once the detectives started, getting a bit suspicious because they were, giving conflicting stories and changing their stories and all this kind of thing, they stopped speaking to them. I mean, that's a massive red flag, isn't it? When you stop speaking to detectives, when you stop speaking to detectives and your grandson is, they're searching for your grandson. They've thrown all the resources at searching for your grandson who's disappeared. And when you stop talking to them, that's a real red flag, isn't it? It's a massive red flag. More red flags than red square, isn't it? Because why would any family member stop talking to the police who were trying to find their son? Just so as I say, there is no evidence yet. That's what the police have said, that this case could take years to solve, but they're not going to give up, and they're going to keep returning.
Recently releasing a statement saying they just want to find him. More searches for little Gus at the family homestead are expected in the coming months.
Yeah. So the police haven't given up. They're going to carry on searching. But as I say, I don't know if these two Gmails are still at the house or not, or if they've gone to live somewhere else. Anyway, so this court case that was supposed to happen last week is not happening. It's been moved at the last minute to Adelaide, and it'll be another month. So it'll be June before we find out what's happened there. My heart goes out to Gus's mum and dad, because they're the ones that have been cleared by the police. The police have said they've got nothing to do with it. So it's the two GMAs that are in the frame, prime suspects. And there'd be reasons for that. So it's funny, Australia, isn't it, how it works? So we've covered a couple of Australian cases, of course. What's really frustrating me at the moment is this Samantha Murphy case that was, well, I think the preliminary hearings did start this month, but there's nothing on the news. There's definitely been hearings because they've been scheduled in the court calendar in the Supreme Court. They've been scheduled in, and we've seen the schedules, and it's Patrick Oren Stevenson So there's definitely been something going on this month, but there must be a ban on reporting because nothing has been on the news, or there's been nothing, just nothing, not even a mention of it. So that not even say, oh, the preliminary hearings have started. So it makes you think there must be some sort of media ban, or on the mainstream media aren't talking about it at all. And because this was a case that they talked about a lot, the Samantha Murphy case. So we're just waiting for that to move on, and that probably be June as well. It's like you're always waiting another month, and it's very frustrating. And I feel for the families having to go for another month of waiting. They've already, especially in the Samantha Murphy case, no, you're looking at a year and a half, isn't it? So it wasn't this February, it was the February before, I think, when she disappeared. Oh, I don't know. It could have even been it gets to a point where you can't even actually remember when it happened. It happened in February. I do know that. Definitely wasn't this February just gone. I think it was the February before. But it might actually have been even the February before that. Let's have a look. Actually, so it's important to get it right. So that's another case that we're hanging on, waiting for news. And as I say, frustrating as it is for us, you just think, God, how did that poor family feel? How do they feel? Waiting all this time. So it's 2024, 4th of February 2024, that Samantha Murphy went missing. 51-year-old mother of 3, and allegedly killed by Patrick Corin Stevenson. And his trial, it sort of started because the preliminary hearings have started. As I say, that's definite because he's been on the, it's been on the court. I've looked at the court schedules. It's there on the court schedules, but nothing reported on the news. So we've got to wait. But and as soon as that case starts properly, I will be covering it. And I'm dying to cover it. I'm waiting to cover it. Can't wait to hear because we still don't know what evidence the police has against Patrick Corin Stevenson, why he was ever arrested in the first place. We have no idea. Now, in that case also, there's no body. It's always more, it's not impossible, but it's always more complicated, isn't it, when there's no body? Samantha sadly has not been found yet. So, I expect the defence will use that, say, well, we don't even know if she's even dead. That sort of thing the defence come up with, isn't it? Like, oh, she might just walk in at any moment, or blah, 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 blah. But of course, once the evidence, I still have a sort of horrible feeling, really. I don't know. I don't know whether I want it to go to trial or not. I still have a feeling that he may change his plea to guilty when he realises all the evidence against him, because apparently there's an unprecedented amount of evidence, like video, CCTV data, etc. I still think Patrick may change his plea to guilty. That'd be a shock for his family, who are standing by him, and his girlfriend. But will he give up where Samantha is? Will he tell the police where Samantha is? That's, Samantha's family want her back one way or another. And that's the same here with Gus. It's awful that Gus is just, where is he? Have they just, they incinerated him? Have they buried him? Is he just lying somewhere in a mine shaft? Or just a horrible thing to do to your own grandson as well. That's even worse. It's worse. People expect grandmas to be kind, don't they? And even sometimes people who maybe weren't the best parents, because being a parent is hard, isn't it? But then they become grandparents, and suddenly they're the best grandparent ever. I know quite a few people like that. Sometimes it's easier to be a good grandparent than it is to be a good parent, because Nobody gives you a book of instructions in being a parent, but grandparents, it's different because you haven't got the full, what's the word, emotional sort of and pressure and everything. It's a whole different relationship, isn't it? And grandparents, I say, even people that have been brilliant parents are normally turned into better grandparents. Not this one though. Oh my God. How could you do that to your daughter as well? If she, I mean, she may be innocent. I've got to remember that, but I just don't think the police would have done what they've done unless they were pretty certain, declare her as a suspect. And how could you do that to your own daughter? I mean, they've only got one child. Jess is an only one. She's their only daughter, and this is her son. And they're torturing her really by not telling the truth. I don't understand how they can do that, because you know what, the truth does set you free. It won't in one way because they'd end up going to prison. I suppose that's what they're scared about, or maybe they just don't want to admit what's happened. But to live with that secret, if it's true that they have done something to Gus or something happened to Gus and they've covered it up, how can they live with it? How can they? That little boy be haunting them. Well, it would be, maybe it's just me because I've got a conscience. I have a conscience about things I haven't even done most of the time. And I have done things, I mean, nothing like that, obviously. But, I've done things in my life that I'm not proud of, and I live with that guilt all the time. You do. Sometimes, especially when you're young, you do things you don't think about other people's feelings so much. And then when you get older, you do think more about other people's feelings, and, you carry that guilt with you, things that you did. But you know what? You can't change them. You can only, acknowledge what you've done. Own it, live with it. They're not owning it, are they? Something's happened to that boy and they know what's happened to him. It could have been an accident, but they're just making it all worse, aren't they? Making it all worse. Let's just watch this one more time and then I'm going to finish off. But I think the rain's stopping. I don't think it'll be a painting day though. I think that'll have to be tomorrow. Oh, it won't. Oh, no, it's gone on to another one.
A grandparent of missing boy Gus Lamont has had an 11th hour change to a court appearance scheduled for tomorrow. Hannah Ford joins us live from the Adelaide Magistrates Court. And Hannah, Josie Murray will now appear in Adelaide.
That's right, Rosanna. She was due to face court in Peterborough tomorrow morning on a firearms offence, but that hearing has been pushed back until next month. Instead, it will be here in the city. Josie Murray was arrested back in February and charged with one count of possession of a sound moderator that fits onto one of her guns, a charge not related to the investigation into the disappearance of 4-year-old Gus Lamont. It is an aggravated offence, so the maximum penalty is a lengthy stint behind bars. If found guilty, she'll cop a $75,000 fine or 15 years in jail. It's now been more than 7 months since her 4-year-old grandson vanished without a trace from the family homestead near Yunta. Police have declared the disappearance a major crime and say they have a main suspect, not his parents. Both of the grandparents have stopped speaking with detectives, recently releasing a statement saying they just want to find him. More searches for little Gus at the family homestead are expected in the coming months.
A grandparent.
That's where we are with that case. Where is Gus? Where is Gus? Where is Nancy Guthrie? We're still on that one missing. Where are Jack and Lily Sullivan? Where is Summer Wells? Where is Sebastian Rogers? All these missing people, and all vulnerable, vulnerable people, either for elderly age like Nancy or for young age like the children that have disappeared. And in all those cases, someone somewhere knows what's happened to these people. Somebody must know. In many of those cases, you know, I'm not sure with Sebastian Rogers. I think maybe I don't know about. I mean, everywhere's been searched with him and he wasn't found, so we have to presume he has been abducted or there has been foul play. Same with Summer Wells. So, all these mystery cases. Will we ever find out the truth? But anytime I've got any news whatsoever, I will be back about Gus. Yeah, sounds like it's still raining. It's stopped thundering and lightning, but it's still raining. So hopefully, apparently by 4 o'clock this afternoon, it's supposed to stop raining. God, I hope so. I didn't come to live in Spain for all this rain. We've had rain since October. It feels like constant. That's like 6 months. I think they've been messing with the weather. I do. They've been messing with it and trying to cool it down, but they've made it too cool. I don't know what they've been doing. Okay, so take care of you because you are the most important person. Enjoy your weekend. I'll be back at some point over the weekend. Yeah, and until I see you again, may your God go with you. And don't forget, please, 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 begging, 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 leave your DNA on the subscribe button, the like button, and the share button. And I'll see you really soon next video. And may your God go with you. Thank you so much. Bye bye.